Hello everyone, Eva here and welcome to the next episode of Outside of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists and create various art-related videos. Before we go to the interview, I wanted to let you know that my course Storytelling with Color and Light is now available for you at artsideoflife.com/color. I designed the course for beginner and intermediate artists, breaking the big topic of color and light into smaller parts to help you understand the main concept so you can make your artworks appealing and believable. So check it out at artsideoflife.com/color. And now let's go back to the interview. My guest today is Eeva Nikunen, and in this episode we will also talk about what helped her in the beginning of her freelance career to find and sustain the inspiration and ideas for her art. Eeva is a fantasy artist from Finland who specializes in narrative style, fine art and illustration, using mediums such as oil paints and graphite pencils. Before becoming a full-time artist, Eeva has worked in various fields of design, including game design, web design creation, and visual merchandising. In 2016, Eeva successfully crowdfunded her first self-published coloring book, Stargazers, and recently she published the first book in the Enchanted Valley series of creativity journals. And now please welcome Eeva Nikunen, and let's get to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Outside of Life, and I'm super happy to have Eeva here. Hi!
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining, and let's just dive into your background and let's talk about maybe how you got to art and maybe which were kind of the biggest decisions you had to do when you kind of decided, okay, I will take this professionally.
I've been drawing all my life, and art has always been my number one passion. And around 3 years ago, I decided to start building my personal own art brand. I've always worked in fields of design for different companies, but just 3 years ago, I just decided that I want to make a change and work for myself and build something for myself, because I felt that in the jobs that I was employed at, I couldn't bring all my visions to life, all the exciting things I wanted to create. I just kind of couldn't do everything in my job. So that was kind of the starting point for my personal art career. So.
And how was your transition, from being an employee to work on your own stuff? Which were the biggest challenges, or what was going on in your head when you were doing this?
A little bit of my background, I'm a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. So when I graduated from graphic design school, I started looking for jobs, and the first job I got was, sorry, getting over cold, first job I got was at a gaming company. Mm-hmm. And I started doing gaming graphics, and then from there, I worked there for 4 years, and then I got a little bit bored. It was just the same thing. It was a fun job, but still, I wanted something different. And then I actually moved to London. I lived there for a year, and I studied visual merchandising.
There in London, yeah.
In London, yeah. That was one of the best years of my life, because London is my favorite city. But then I moved back to Finland, where I live now, and I started a job at a different company doing visual merchandising, and I worked there for 4 years. And then I just after 4 years at the same job, was kind of I got the feeling that I really need to for some reason, just the art thing just came back. I was I just wanted to get back to just drawing and painting and doing that full time. So that was the first thing that got me into thinking about a personal art.
And what influenced you the most, that you wanted to create maybe the female characters, or maybe more this magical mood, or also the tools you used, you work right with the oil paints. So maybe why did you choose this medium, and you wanted to express yourself in this way?
I've always the fantasy genre has always been my favorite. I love all things fantasy books. I read a lot of those, and just everything kind of magical fairy tale themes have always been my favorites. And the art tools I use mostly is oil paint, and I also really love drawing with graphite. So I kind of do both. I have more experience with graphite drawing, so that's what I've been doing like the longest. For a few years, I've been like really trying to learn, like improve with the oil painting, and like really studying, doing a lot of studies and stuff, and courses. And that is my favorite medium, oil paint. But I think it will be a lifetime learning process. And I really love painting kind of like these magical female characters, and also animals and birds and stuff. So those are my favorite themes.
And what kind of helped you progress the most? Something like your aha moment, like when you were learning, when you start seeing most progress in your artworks. Can you mention some of maybe the tips?
Well, I think one of the, just after like starting to build like my own personal art brand, I kind of, the thing that surprised me the most is like how much you have to kind of like go inside yourself, like to find the true inspiration, and kind of not worry about like what other people would like, but just like kind of it's not even about the technical skill of drawing or painting. It's more about like what you're painting than like how well you're painting it. So that's been an ongoing journey, I think. And just this last November, I went to an artist workshop. It was actually in Nashville in the US. And it was a workshop for fantasy artists, like a workshop surrounded around like business for artists. But there was also a lot of talk about like how to create more personal art. And I think one of the important things like in that journey is to talk to fellow artists and hear other people's experiences with that. And I think that's a really important, like maybe that's like my aha moment, because I think that's a very important thing to focus on.
And what was the name of the workshop?
It was called the Fantastic Workshop. It's created by two artists. They also have a podcast called One Fantastic Week.
Oh yeah. Okay, I know that one. Yeah. So that's the workshop they did in Nashville. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
so we can put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely. It's a great podcast as well, and the workshop is really great. So I can recommend that a lot.
Perfect. And what about like your art process of, like your thinking, as you mentioned that you need to look into yourself about like when you want to create something new. So how does the process look like when you are starting new big project? Maybe how do you do your research and what you are thinking about, and kind of all of this, what you can mention?
I can mention one specific project I've been working on. I'm creating my first book. It's kind of like an illustrated journal. There's also like journaling pages for people to write, but I'm still like illustrating. It's kind of like an illustrated journey through this kind of like enchanted land. I will be posting more about it later, but that's like one of the biggest personal projects that I've worked on. And I figured that one of the really important things is to like have deadlines and like stick to the deadlines when you're doing the planning for like how many illustrations you need for the project and everything. So it really helps if you have a very specific time planned for the project. And even if I actually missed my first deadline for the project, I wanted the book to be finished before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I missed that deadline, but still like it's not the end of the world. I can still have it finished soon, but just the deadline is one. And just about the research, I think it's important to like all the time like have a sketchbook or something and put down ideas, even if you can't really, if you get an idea for a painting or something, maybe you can't start the project like right there, but you have the idea written down in your sketchbook, or maybe a little thumbnail drawing or something.
So you start with it. So you have the ideas and sketchbooks and thumbnails, and then you do your research maybe online, or just from the ideas in the sketchbooks, and then you go directly to the work mode and you write the tasks for the day, or does it work differently for you?
The inspiration kind of comes from different places. Sometimes it might be something specific that I can go and research, maybe online, or maybe read a book, or even like watch a movie that kind of has the same kind of themes that I would like to maybe like paint or do in a book, or anything like that. Or if there's a museum exhibition, I love museums, and that's a great place to do research. And it's I think the creative process, it's kind of like you have to make a list, but still you have to allow yourself to kind of like during the project kind of like still be creative and not get too, because sometimes when you start creating a new project, you might get a bit sidetracked, but don't get mad at yourself if you like spend time on a thing that maybe didn't work in the end, but still I think you learned something from that, and then you can get back to the project. Like just have the deadline, but allow yourself to make a few mistakes on the way.
And how long do you usually spend on like either the artwork or like a bigger project? Like, do you set yourself also like timelines, right? How much time you allow yourself to work on it?
I do for this book. It's like I've never worked on a project that's like this big. That's like a whole illustrated book. So it took a bit longer. I started the project in September, so it's been a few months now, but maybe just for a single oil painting, I try to finish it like maybe in like 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, it takes, with oil paints, you have to let it dry and everything, so it's a bit slower, but it kind of depends on the project.
On the project, yeah. And when you mentioned also some of the books you like, can you mention something maybe for inspiration you would give your friend or artistic creative?
Well, I actually have one book here. It's I read so many books, I would have so many recommendations, but specifically for artists and creatives, I love this book, which is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Excuse me if I mispronounce his name. I don't speak Spanish, but it's read. Oh yeah, it's really good. It's kind of like it's about like I was talking about like going like finding your true inspiration. That book is really good for that, like that journey, because the book really kind of talks about like a journey to find yourself. But then you realize like at the end that like you had like the magic inside you the whole time, but then just like it's okay to get sidetracked and do a lot of different things until you kind of find your place. But it's a really beautiful book, and I recommend that. And then just a really like a practical book like is another one called it's The One Thing. It has really good like tips for just like practical tips, if like especially if you're maybe working from home or starting your own personal art career. It's good. It just has like a very practical tips about like time management and like taking care of yourself so you don't burn out and everything like that. So
yeah, that one is good as well. I read that one.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, I have to read it again because I think I've been like ignoring some of the stuff lately that's in the book that's like really helpful. So I have to read it again, but it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because right now I was reading Stand Out. There is also quite interesting book, like how to focus on differentiating from others, like what makes you special, basically.
Okay.
Also artworks. Before we continue, let's thank our sponsors. If you love discovering and trying out new art tools, you should check out Art Snacks. When you subscribe, you will get a box of high-quality art supplies every month. I have already discovered so many amazing new products, limited edition tools and exclusive supplies only available to subscribers. Art Snacks definitely helps me to get more creative and try different art techniques every month. There is also Art Snacks Challenge, where you can share your artworks using only the tools in the monthly box. You also get to join the Art Snacks Mix community, where you can talk with other artists like you, inspire each other and improve together. And because you are part of Artside of Life community, you will get a special 10% discount with the promo code ARTSIDE10. So don't wait, visit artsideoflife.com/artsnacks and use the promo code ARTSIDE10. If you are a digital artist, you will love AstroPad. AstroPad is an app that turns your iPad Pro into professional wireless graphics tablet for your Mac. I use it to work with Photoshop and Illustrator to create highly rendered artworks for my clients directly on my iPad. I was super excited to discover AstroPad because the painting apps available on iPad don't have all the functionality like Photoshop. With AstroPad, I can use all my favorite and custom-made Photoshop brushes, which is super cool. And because you are part of Artside of Life community, you will get an exclusive 10% discount on AstroPad Studio licenses. To get started, go to artsideoflife.com/astropad and enter the promo code ARTSIDE. And now, let's go back to the interview. And what about like technical skills if someone wants to get better, like either anatomy or light, when you were mentioning you were learning from different sources and the workshop, is there something else you would like to recommend, for people like this is really interesting?
Well, just I took 2 painting courses just here. I live near Helsinki here in Finland, so I would really recommend even if it's just like a small little art group or something, go somewhere like physically go somewhere like a little art course or something, because you will meet people. I think that's a very very important thing to just get to hang out with fellow artists, or if you can do a workshop or something. It's wonderful an environment if you find like-minded people.
Yeah, definitely.
So just like for the learning environment, I think that's really important. And of course, you can watch a lot of YouTube videos. I get a lot of information from just watching other artists' tutorials online and everything. So.
Yeah, definitely. And did you have a mentor when you were starting out? Someone doing one-to-one, or was it mainly, when you went for these physical location classes?
Yeah, actually, I have people online that I talk to that are also they're not artists, but they have their own personal business and are entrepreneurs or something.
Oh,
so I think that's a really important thing to kind of connect with people. You can do it online because we all live in different countries, and the internet is so fantastic because you can connect with people. And I still maybe once a month I talk with other people who are kind of we just exchange knowledge and everything we've learned. So it's important to kind of have someone to talk to about, because maybe your friends, your best friend, maybe doesn't understand maybe what you're trying to do. So I don't that's the case for me. I have a few friends, of course, who I can talk to about also my art, my business, but still, it's good to have other people as well. So
yeah, or someone who's been there already, so they can give you advice what maybe didn't work or worked for them, and kind of to help you progress faster where you want to get.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely. And what about other networking? Maybe do you go also for conventions or some other, places where you meet like-minded people, or it's mainly online and the workshops?
Well, I've done. I sometimes sell my art at conventions, fantasy conventions. So those are kind of the only ones I've done. There are a few smaller ones here in Finland. Other places in the world, in the US, they're much bigger. They have a lot of fantasy genre conventions, and also art conventions, which are great places to meet people. So I'm hoping that maybe someday I can go to those also. But yeah, those are great places to kind of even if you're not selling your art, but just hang out and see other people's work and talk to other artists. Like that's a great thing.
And do you have any favorites you would like to go to, or maybe you already been and you like them?
Well, I've been to, there's a huge convention in Atlanta in the US, which is called Dragon Con.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge one. They have like over 60,000 people,
Wow.
and they have a huge art show, and it's all like fantasy and sci-fi. So it's awesome. I've been there actually 2 times just as an attendee. Not I didn't sell anything or have any art displayed, but that's a good one. I would like to maybe be a part of the art show there someday.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you can definitely apply and open a stand there. Why not?
Yeah.
And what about maybe some other conventions? You mentioned like some fantasy conventions, maybe in Europe, if you know some, if you want to recommend.
Well, I haven't been to. There was this year we had in Helsinki we had a convention that's called WorldCon, which is a kind of like sci-fi books and fantasy books convention, and it travels around the world like every year. And this year it was in Helsinki, but I think next year, 2019, it will be in Dublin in Ireland. If I'm not wrong, I think it was next year. So that's in Europe. Like if artists are in Europe, that's maybe a bit easier place. It's a big convention and a really nice one, kind of like what they have in the US, because usually it's there. So if you want to experience kind of that, and they have a great art show. I actually had art displayed in the art show this year at WorldCon, and I sold paintings, and it was and I met a lot of people, so it was a great experience.
Oh, perfect. And so do you have maybe advice for networking as, like what is your best kind of experience in this, like just talk to people, or is it better on the conventions, or is it easier for you to talk people online, or maybe when someone is shy, something you kind of learned over time, like how to kind of make new connections?
Yeah, it can be a bit scary sometimes to talk to people. I don't consider myself as shy. I may be a bit awkward. So, but it's I think it helps if you're at a convention, like if it's like if you're into like fantasy genre, and you already have a lot of things that you can talk about with people who are there. Like everyone kind of likes the same kind of stuff, so it's very easy to think about things to talk about. And I've really noticed that kind of like doing like kind of networking is just like making friends and talking to people. You can just like it's not scary if you just think about like making new friends. So
it's like definitely. And what about when you think about your whole art career until now? Is there something you wish you knew before you started? Something like you would give advice to young self?
Well, I'm kind of glad that I didn't know like how much work it would be like every day. Like maybe that's a good thing, that you don't kind of like, when you're excited first, like starting, you're so excited to do the work and everything. But then when you've been working for a few years, you start like realizing like how much work, like building a thing, like how much it takes out of you. But I just, but maybe that's a good thing not to know in the beginning. So maybe one thing that I would say, like what we were talking about, was the community, like having like-minded people who can help you. I think that's like a really important part of the whole like journey as an independent artist. Just have friends who are artists as well, and maybe join a Facebook group with people who are doing the same thing, and just maybe talk online if you don't know anyone from your area. So that's a good thing.
And how did you find the right people to talk to online, which would fit to like your either the art style or where you want to be, as you mentioned, like some of the people who has businesses, or so how did you find the right people for you?
Well, one great way is just if you like listen to podcasts, like maybe some podcast there is a guest who has a community, or that's the way I've really found people online. Okay. Just like one one podcast was the one I mentioned is One Fantastic Week podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of started following them, and they have a Facebook group which you can join. So there's a lot of artists there, and just like from there, I'm just like, and then when you're also, if you're an artist, you're posting your art, like people will start seeing it, and then they kind of remember you, and then kind of like start, you can just start conversations with fellow artists online, just build it, like slowly build it from there. It's just like making friends online. So
yeah, definitely. And it's also a good idea, as you mentioned with the podcast, if you hear someone you like, the energy or whatever approach to life from that person as was a guest there maybe, and then you find them online, and then you can just ask them questions and do that.
yeah, it's a great way.
That sounds really good, yeah. And what about, what would you consider as a most difficult time of your art career so far, or maybe what you learned from it?
Oh, well, maybe one of the most difficult ones was actually like I mentioned the book that I'm working on. Just I started it and I just didn't realize like how much work it would be. Like I knew it would be a lot of work, but just like kind of when you're working on something, you want to get it finished, and it's not like it takes so much longer than you thought at first that it would take.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep going. One thing that helped me was last November when I went to the workshop. I got to hang out with fellow artists for a few days, and I think it helps if you're feeling like maybe uninspired or a bit down. Just talk to someone, and like the workshop was great because I got a lot of like good feedback from like industry, like professionals, like other professionals. So just like maybe boost your self-confidence a little bit. Like that's an important thing too. And also remember to not to work yourself to death, because you have to take breaks. Usually when I feel like I have to get a lot of things done and I don't have time to do anything else, that's kind of like a warning sign that you really should maybe take a break, like one day, just don't work on anything, like maybe go do something, watch a movie or something. And then when you come back to the work, you will feel a lot better. And you also will create more because you're more relaxed.
Yeah, rested and relaxed. Yeah. So you have to take breaks and just to breathe in the process. And kind of enjoy the journey. And can you maybe mention some of or maybe pinpoint one advice you got about your project, kind of which will help you to improve? Like from that workshop, you said that you got like good feedback. So maybe if you can pinpoint like one example, what was something which was really helpful for you?
Well, just it really helped. I showed there's like at the workshop there was like about like 10 instructors, like professional artists and other people as well. And I talked to them one-on-one, showed my portfolio, talked about my art, just kind of. It's important, like in those moments, they just like kind of listen, like what they have to say, and just try not to like interfere, like say like I like this painting, but I don't like this painting. Just let the information like listen to what they have to say. And one thing that was really helpful, because I showed all my paintings, and they asked me like which ones are your favorite, and I showed like two, and they said also like, yeah, I think those are your best as well. So just like a confirmation of maybe going towards the right direction, like with your art. And when you get that feedback, I think that helps, because sometimes you might feel like I'm a bit lost, and am I painting the right things, or should I be painting something totally different? So that was one thing.
Yeah. And so why was it like good, or if you can take us to the like exact, advice, was it because the technical skill was good, or you were saying the good story with that piece, or kind of what was the advice?
Yeah, well, I showed, there was actually at the workshop, there's like a critique group, like when you show like to a few instructors, you show all your paintings, and then they give you feedback. And that was the moment that they asked me to tell them like which ones were which ones felt like most personal to me, like which one I liked most. And I showed them, and they said, okay, we can see like maybe those aren't like your like technically most like the technically best paintings, but we can see that like you loved painting those pictures.
Yeah.
So it kind of like maybe freed me from trying to focus just on the technical skill, just to make it look like great, and also just allow like the creativity to come out through the painting. So it's not about like how well it's painted, it's about like what's in the image.
Yeah, kind of the emotion you are communicating through the character or the whole painting, right?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, interesting. Cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And also, if you are thinking now about new projects, right, when you will finish the book, how do you find new paid projects, or what do you live from right now? What are your income streams?
Well, I have my own online store where I sell prints. I did a coloring book last year, which was like my first like book project. So. And I'm like constantly trying to grow my online store and make new products. That's a big one. And I also do private commissions for oil paintings. So that's something I do as well. And I do some stuff for like small businesses, but I try to not to have that be my main thing, because like with this whole thing, like my main focus is to like do my own art and live with my own art. So I enjoy doing the private commissions if it's something that's like in line with what I already do.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the main things.
And the private commissions, you mentioned that you are doing like oil paintings, or also like the charcoal, or like a pencil drawings, or you have like a different structures for people what they can kind of order from you, or what would you advise someone who wants to like start doing maybe commissions?
Yeah, I think important thing is to be like very specific about what you offer. It makes it easier for you when people approach you, and it also makes it easier for the clients, because they know like what they can like kind of like order from you. You make it like, if you want more commissions, like maybe have a commissions page on your website where you explain, like you don't have to like tell any prices or anything. You just have your information. You can contact me for maybe this kind of commissions, maybe have like example images on the website of what you do. So I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense, because also some people are starting with like either Society6 or Etsy, and you decided to have your own store on your website, right? To cut off the commissions and just to have everything at one place. Yeah,
I have a website that has a built-in store. So I wanted everything to be on my own website. So.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. And what are your maybe dream projects for the future? You know, like something in 5 to 10 years, if you cannot fail, and the book, right? You have a coloring book and all of the other books. Maybe what is the other projects you would like to work on?
Oh, I have so many. I'm really inspired by a lot of things. I have so many ideas for future like books. I love also like classical books, like Jane Austen books and everything. So one of my dream projects would be to illustrate like one of those stories. And I love like the Bronte sisters. Like Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books, like if some people know that one. And one of my dreams would be to be able to, if I wanted to do like maybe like a Jane Austen inspired book, I could travel to a place that like she actually like lived. So I could like I wouldn't just have to go to my local museum. I could actually like travel to another, like maybe London or somewhere, to do research, and then do a few days of research in a beautiful place, and then come back and start the project. And yeah, that's a goal that I'm working towards. So more travel that I could go. So
yeah, because the places can be really inspirational, right? Where you can actually just draw directly there, or yeah.
yeah.
I visited, what was it, in Porto, where you have this library when they were inspired for Harry Potter, the castle, because you have these like crooked staircases, and it was so amazing just to see it and be there. So I totally understand, just to be creative at that location actually.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I love Harry Potter too.
So you have to go there to check it out.
Yeah, I should.
And so if you kind of think about like, okay, these new projects and stuff, do you already like set up goals to work on it like every day, or like kind of how does your normal day look like now? Like how many hours a day do you draw, or how do you plan your week, if there is something which helps you every day to succeed?
Yeah, that's an important thing. Actually, the book that I mentioned, The One Thing, kind of talks about that. Like if you're struggling with like how to build your day, like to be more productive, that book helps with that. I think the thing that works for me is like the first 4 hours in a day I draw or paint. So that's like when I'm most like
Productive.
fresh and awake. Yeah, productive. Yeah. So I kind of I don't check like email in the morning, or I try not to check like Facebook and get distracted by everything. So I kind of like save the mornings for like the most important. I think is the most important work is the painting and drawing, like doing the actual art. And then later in the day, when you get a bit more distracted, you can start doing different things, like maybe work on marketing a bit, or updating a website, or posting on social media. So that's the way that works best for me, I think.
Yeah, because it's always good to find out when is the most productive time, or kind of a creative time for a person, right? That someone is a night owl or morning person, or how do you call it, right? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's a really good point to just realize it, like, what kind of person am I?
Yeah.
And if we like talk about like far future, and one of the last questions I would like to ask is about, the 100 years, in the future, what would you like to be remembered for?
Well, I just like doing my art. I would maybe like to be remembered just as a nice person, I think. So I don't have any I would like people to, like, if they enjoy my art, I would like them to enjoy like right now as I'm making it. I don't really care about like what people think like in 100 years. So maybe just if someone still remembers me, then maybe just remember me as a nice person. So that would be my goal.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you inspire already so many people, and they look at your artworks and they see the nice emotion, or magical part of it. Do you have maybe also some tools which you cannot live without? Like a favorite brush or favorite paint?
Well, I do. I can't live without a few like oil painting brands. One is Mussini oil paint, and other one is Old Holland. Those are really good ones. And I also use like Winsor & Newton is a bit cheaper brand, but still I think very good. Winsor & Newton, their artist series. Oh, so nice. That one. And I'm always buying new brushes, because I kind of like, with oil paint, I kind of like, I destroy a lot of brushes because maybe I forget to clean them and stuff like that. But yeah. I think everyone finds their own like favorite art brands and pencils and paints that they just can't live without. They like kind of like get used to how they work. And
so that's why it's also, in my opinion, good to try different brands, and that's why I always ask about it. And because you try and then you see what you love and what you don't like.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Sorry, you wanted to say something?
No. Nothing.
Yeah, because I still need to try the oil paints. I haven't tried it, so it's just only watercolors and acrylics, but oils I haven't touched yet.
Yeah, it can be a bit like a scary medium to get into if you've never painted, because it feels like there's so much information, but actually it's like really simple to just start. Yeah. Just I think like when they talk about all the mediums and everything you have to use with them, you don't actually have to have any mediums. You can just start or just find a really simple. I can recommend one like what I started with was I just bought oil paints and then a medium which is made by Winsor & Newton. It's called Liquin. It just for you to like thin down the paint, and it also fastens the drying process of the paint. So I think that's just a very easy way to start with oil paints.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, because they blend quite well, but as you said, you need to wait until they dry, and so that's definitely different to acrylics because they just dry right away. You cannot blend anything, and I'm like, no. So yeah, okay. So oil, something to try for me, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you like kind of summarize what we all talk about, and before we say goodbye, maybe we can give like a last piece of advice or key takeaway for our audience, and then we will slowly finish.
Yeah. The one thing that I would say is that when you're doing art for yourself, I think if you're feeling a bit lost, like you don't know if you're doing the right thing or going the right direction, I always try to think about like what would I like to like have or own, like try to make something that you wish like existed. I just kind of can't find like the very specific thing from like what other people have made. So to make that yourself, I think then you're on the right track.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree, because I also try to create something similar what I would like to have maybe on the wall or somewhere. So that's that's a good idea. So thank you so much again for being here and sharing your artistic journey. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks you. And thanks everyone who joined today as well, and see you in the next episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe because I post new videos every week. I would be also super happy if you let me know your thoughts in comments and give the video a thumbs up. You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a couple of free artist resources ready for you. So if you want to listen to the interviews on the go too, make sure to check out the podcast at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Continue to inspire each other, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!